Chapter 10. Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I'd never amount to nothing, to all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling in front of, called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter. It's all good. And all the niggas in the struggle, you know what I'm saying. It's all good, baby, baby. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine, Salt and Pepper, and Heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall, every Saturday Rap Attack, Mr. Magic, Marley Marl. I let my tape rock till my tape popped. My road to Big Sandy started in late 1994. Me and my friends would sit around a floor model television watching a fuzzy program called The Jukebox. We could call in and request songs that would be charged to one of my friend's grandmother's telephone account. We would order Biggie's Juicy back to back. Like Biggie, it was all a dream. There were usually 5 of us watching Booper's grandmother's floor model, while his mother was upstairs smoking cocaine base with Uncle Bobby. Booper's Uncle Bobby was a pimp and a drug addict who sold cocaine to support his own habit. It wasn't long before me and Booper started putting together a plan to get paid and blow up like the World Trade Center. We were 15, but motivated by our circumstances. Poor white kids from the ghetto. We wanted more than we had. We stole empty cocaine bags out of Uncle Bobby's dresser and filled them with baking soda. My career as a street hustler began when we passed off 11 bags of baking soda for cocaine to one of Bobby's customers. Before long, we were buying real cocaine in small quantities and packaging it up in $10 bags. We were becoming the guys we looked up to in our neighborhood, the hustlers, the cats standing on the corner, guns tucked in their waist, shooting dice and selling cocaine all day. To us, they were the villains, the heroes, the people we aspired to be. They had money, cars, nice clothes, women. We had nothing but beat-up starter jackets and ragged Bo Jackson series Nikes. At 15, I wanted to be like the white kids from the suburbs. I wanted a car at 16. The difference between us and them? My single mother was just as broke as me. She was not buying me a car. I was determined to get my own. Like Biggie, I was reaching for the stars. I cocked my starter hat to the side and set out for the block with a pocket full of cocaine. Little did I know, I was slowly walking my way from Rochester, New York to Inez, Kentucky. Chapter 11. The meeting on the yard is getting ready to begin. Different guys in the car greet each other with fist bumps and handshakes. Before long, we all form a circle around Stevie. Stevie looks more and more like Casper the Ghost, especially under the lights as the night approaches. The meeting was supposed to be so all the guys can get acquainted with each other. A quick head count tells me there are over 70 white guys in the car that I joined earlier. Like most things, the more one has, the stronger one is. In the prison context, the more soldiers you have, the stronger your army. The stronger your army, the more influence you have. As the men come together, Stevie calls for silence. Once he has the silence, he delves into a profanity-laced tirade about how bad white gang members are. He tells us how they try to victimize good white dudes like all of us. Stevie tells us that if we did not have each other, we would be victimized by these heathens who thrive on victimizing their own people while hiding under a phony cloak that they represent the white race and help whites. I scan the men among me, bobbing their heads in agreement to Stevie's every utterance. It looks like they are under a Jim Jones trance. According to Stevie, our car is the only car that has the men to stop the oppression because we have the numbers. He reminds me of Ronald Reagan giving one of his great speeches before a crowd of onlookers. He knows how to engage his faithful minions, how to incite them with the threats of fear from his opposition, and how to engage them to commit violence if the situation calls for it. It is easy to see that he has manipulated these men to believe that he is their king. As the speech continues, it becomes evident that this hatred is directed towards a guy from California named Bam. Bam is the shot caller for the Aryan Brotherhood gang, which is by far the strongest white gang in the federal prison system. The Aryan Brotherhood developed back in the 1970s as an organized predatory gang. The gang's main interest was protection, extortion, and narcotic sales in prison. This ruthless white gang also took on contract murders for other prison gangs and individuals. The gang was merciless in the 1970s, with a reputation for being thirsty for blood. To this day, they have zero-tolerance policy for disrespect from others, staff and inmates alike. While they may not have the grip on the prison system they once had, they still have a mean reputation. The Aryan Brotherhood lives by a creed that says, "An Aryan brother is without a care. He walks where the weak and heartless won't dare. And if by chance he should stumble and lose control, his brothers will be there to help reach his goal. For a worthy brother no need is too great. He did not but ask, fulfillment's for his fate. For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear. Vengeance will be his, through his brothers still here. For those brotherhood means just what it implies. A brother is a brother till that brother dies. And if he is loyal and never loses faith, in each brother's heart will always be a place. So a brother am I, and always will be, even after my life is taken from me. I'll lie down content, knowing I stood, head held high, walking proud in the brotherhood. This is a gang that was formulated on principles, a gang that had structure. Their penchant for violence only escalated their rise to notoriety. Serious members such as Tommy Silverstein would not hesitate to uphold their secret creed. Bam was cut from the same cloth as Silverstein. He held what Stevie aspired to possess, the keys to the yard. Stevie wants to be the head honcho for all the whites at Big Sandy. Bam is standing in his way. An obstacle to that ultimate goal. The agenda to take control is being pushed further every day. Stevie begins to close. He tells us all, "Remember, men, together we can conquer, but as individuals we will fail." This line must have been stolen from General Patton himself or some other great military leader. He warns us that we are going to move on the white gang members soon. His speech has riled up the crowd. The convicts among me look thirsty for action, with no regard for any consequences that might come from an attack on the gang members. Before the meeting ends, Dennis grabs the floor. "You have 2 weeks to get your paperwork together," he tells all of us. "The car is having a paperwork party in the near future." It is clear that in the event something goes wrong, the powers that be want to make sure that no snitches slipped into the car. Realistically, though, with all the cameras in the prison worrying about someone telling on you in the event you kill another convict is a facade. The cameras are all that is needed. Dennis continues, "You all need a knife. Everyone has to have at least one. For those who did not have a knife, he assured us that he had one for us once our paperwork checked out. All in all, Dennis is truly for the car. He believes in it, in the brotherhood. His aspirations are much like Stevie's. He wants to be the shot caller for the Boston car in prison. Prison is all he knows. Dennis walked in at the age of 19 with a 30-year sentence for robbing a hotel for less than $200 and a PlayStation. Many of Dennis's hopes and dreams dissipated when the judge handed down that 30-year sentence, just like my own. He walked into prison a young man. His sad reality is that if he ever makes it out of prison alive, he will be leaving an old man with nothing in life. His story is the same as so many of ours, crushed dreams. The faces of the men behind these walls tell the same story. There is not much to live for when your reality is coming to prison young and walking out old. Perhaps that is why the Aryan Brotherhood Creed says, "For an Aryan brother, death holds no fear." While the truth may not hit a prisoner right away, it happens eventually. When it does, it hits like a ton of bricks. Mine didn't happen when my judge imposed my 40-year sentence. It was when I returned to my lonely cell that night that going to prison young and leaving old became my reality. In the back of my mind, I knew I had to do everything I could to change the trajectory of my destiny. Prisoners deal with this pain, this despair, in different ways. Some opt for suicide. Others numb the pain with drugs. Some lash out with violence. Others just deal with it. Many in this position find something to hold on to. Dennis did that. He latched onto this make-believe car, hoping he would be the shot caller someday. The car became his life. He was living for the car, nothing else. The same could be said for Stevie. Life as he knew it was over with. Whatever prospect he once had of ever leaving prison a free man is gone, swept away like a rushing river with the denial of his last appeal. When he leaves prison, it will be in a body bag as a hearse delivers him to his final resting place. Stevie is the kind of man who has to control something. His mind would crumble otherwise. He had to formulate this car and elect himself the shot caller. To keep the car moving, he has to create his own problems. This occupies his mind and keeps him from dwelling on his reality, the body bag and the hearse. Chapter 12. One of these days I'm going to tell you I told you so. Mr. Young turned to me while pouring a soda into a cup of ice. "What do you mean by that?" I asked with a little sarcasm in my voice. I rolled my eyes slightly. "Well, for starters, I see you out there with Adam and them assholes. Mark my words, the last thing you need to do is get involved with them there degenerates. I just met those guys today. You must not remember when I pointed them guys out to you," he says. He continues without letting me answer him. "Don't get in that damn car if you ever want to make it off this mountain alive. If you don't listen to me, one of these days I'm going to tell you I told you so." My feelings tell me that Mr. Young is likely correct in his analysis, as well as his advice. A scolding from him is how my first night at Big Sandy started. Tonight is another night where his early-to-bed rule is out the window. It is clear that he despises Adam, along with the rest of the car. He tells me that they all just came to Big Sandy from a prison in Texas, and that Stevie, Adam, and the rest of the crew think they are tough. If they think they are going to run this prison, Chad, they are sadly mistaken. Why do you despise them so much? Well, for starters, they weren't here for a week before that Dennis and his buddy Ronnie beat up my old cellmate. What did they do that for? I asked with intent curiosity. For no goddamn reason, he says with anger in his voice. He sat in a seat he has been sitting in inside the mess hall that they came here and claimed. They think they own those seats now. Them seats belong to Obama and Eric Holder, not the Boston, New York damn East Coast car, or whoever they claim to be. I smile pondering his statement about Eric Holder. Since he is the Attorney General, maybe he owns the seats after all. He is in charge of the Justice Department and the federal prison system. If Mr. Young told the car that Eric Holder owned those seats, they would likely beat him up as well. More than half the guys in the car probably do not even know who Eric Holder is in the first place. But Mr. Young has no real power or say-so. They would kick his ass, old or not, if he expressed his opinion to anyone in the car. Let me tell you this, young man. I have seen guys just like them a lot in this here prison. They don't last long. Those boys will be in more shit than Planters got peanuts. This was the last thing I wanted to hear given my recent decision to join the car. I am deeply bothered by the fact that I pledged my allegiance to this car. With everything Mr. Young has told me, I cannot possibly tell him what I did. If I did, he would surely go off like a runaway train. Keeping this to myself seems like the better option. I feel like a small child when the child knows he has done something wrong. Anxiety, confusion, and stupidity mix. As Mr. Young talks, it feels like I am being scolded by my father, and I'm trying to hide the shame of a bad choice. God only knows what I have gotten myself into. Jumping in head first was a mistake on my part, and deep inside, I know it. As I drift off to sleep, I find myself anticipating my future here at Big Sandy, and wondering whether Mr. Young is going to tell me he told me so. The morning arrives with the sun bouncing brightly off the window, illuminating the cell. Mr. Young rolls out of bed. I lay there silently, making excuses to myself, contemplating the many bad decisions I've made over the course of my young life. Joining this car triggered regrets. Feeling sorry for myself will accomplish nothing. I shake the thoughts from my conscious mind and slide out of bed to begin my day. At breakfast, I find myself with my newly acquainted car members. Reality sets in quickly. Most of these men are living in a fantasy land. It is apparent we are all caught in some phony prison movie where the script is already written. I ponder that thought. There is a fake bravado of being a tough guy. Many men pretend to be something they are not. It becomes obvious that many prisoners are faking it to make it. Behind these walls, hardened men seem to create their own problems, to make trouble with other prisoners over things that would be trivial in society. It seems absurd that a person would want to create a hostile environment for themselves, an environment riddled with violence, but that is what happens on this side of the razor wire. There are men here who are truly barbaric, hateful, and cold-hearted, but many of the guys are simply pretending. In order to survive, you have to play the prison game the way it exists, a game in which the rules change daily. Joining the car was the first move in the prison game for me. When Dennis was recruiting me, he told me my next move had to be my best move. Because I was a younger white guy from New York, there really was no choice. Had I refused the offer, they would have sent missiles to attack me. This is something I would later learn. There is no choice with the East Coast car. The only way you leave is as a victim of violence. In convict code, this is called beating someone off the yard. Once a group of prisoners assault a prisoner, that prisoner is no longer safe in population. The Bureau of Prisons will then transfer that prisoner to another prison to start anew. At breakfast, I meet a guy named Ace. He is the shot caller for the Ohio White Independent car. Ace and his comrades have an alliance with our car. Like Stevie, he has a hatred for white gang members. Arrogance rolls off him as he tells me his story. For Ace, his future holds nothing but this crazy world. He was in his 20s when he was sentenced to over 200 years for robbing banks. His future holds nothing but anguish and despair. You can almost see it in his eyes when he speaks. For him, the free world was like the Titanic, sunk on that cold night. Like Stevie, he latches onto the car. It's all he has left. Having the keys to the Ohio car is his safe haven. That safe haven does not last long for Ace at Big Sandy. Months later, members of his own car find him to have committed one of the ultimate prison sins. Some time ago, Ace was put in the Special Housing Unit, SHU, pronounced SHU, for assaulting another prisoner. While in the SHU, he accepted a black prisoner from Ohio as his cellmate. Once Ace served his time in the SHU, he was returned to general population. A plot has been put into place to beat him off the yard. The yard seems still. Most people know what is going to happen, or at least they thought they knew. 2 young white convicts from Ohio are stalking Ace. A tall white kid named Slim, the other a stocky blonde with tattoos on his face. Ace has his back to the 2 villains and is engaged in a heated verbal dispute with another Ohio prisoner. Slim sneaks up behind him and swings for the fences. Slim's first punch crunches with the impact, landing to the side of Ace's face. Tattoo Face begins to swing wild, glancing blows as Ace ducks, dodges, and pulls a prison shank from his waist. Tattoo Face sees the knife and bolts from the scene, leaving Slim to his demise. Ace is stabbing Slim. The 2 bodies lock up and fall to the ground. Slim is on the bottom, his hands flailing as Ace mounts him. The sirens blare out. The loudspeaker instructs everyone to get on the ground. A warning shot reverberates off the concrete walls as Ace slashes downward with his sharpened bone crusher. Another warning shot does not deter the onslaught of violence. Slim fights for his life. The correctional officer in the gun tower sets his sights at center mass. Once his target is set, he pulls the trigger, sending the bullet from an AR-15 assault rifle into Ace's body. Immediate impact. Ace topples over the lanyard, holding his shank in place. Slim scrambles to his feet, sucking in air. He darts from the area where he almost lost his life. Confusion engulfs the yard as panic sets in among both staff and convicts. Seeing Ace shot radiates the reality that losing your life is a real possibility. It is not going to always be warning shots. Staff members are coming from everywhere. Medical personnel with red medical bags rush to Ace and roll him over onto his back. One nurse seems to be brushing dirt off what looks like his intestines seeped out of the gaping hole in his stomach. Ace is staring into the sky as if he sees Satan's angels coming to take him to purgatory. The nurse is pushing his intestines back into his body. It is too late for Ace. His blood will forever be left on the razor wire here at Big Sandy. Another inmate met his maker on the prison yard. Violence has claimed Ace's life. His car, the car that he held onto so dearly, was his demise in the end. His 200-year sentence began and ended behind these gloomy concrete walls. Ace is loaded on a stretcher. The wind dances through the razor wire. 19% of all male inmates in the U.S. prisons say they have been physically assaulted by another inmate. Big Sandy is known for housing some high-profile inmates. The prison houses a significant portion of the people convicted of crimes in the Washington, D.C. area. The National Capital Revitalization Self-Government Improvement Act of 1997 gave the Federal Bureau of Prisons custody of sentenced D.C. felons. About 33% of the inmates here at Big Sandy have been convicted of D.C. crimes. The D.C. car is the biggest car at the prison. When a car has numbers, they wield the power on this side of the razor wire. While many men here are pretending, some have learned to become violent. Others are simply brutal. October and November seem to be the months when Satan hovers over the prison. In October 2006, 33-year-old Terrell Johnson, serving a sentence for armed bank robbery, stabbed fellow prisoner Kelvin Spite in the neck with a bone crusher. Spite, like Ace, met his maker in Inez, Kentucky. 2 years later, Johnson pleaded guilty to a charge of second-degree murder and was sentenced to a further 26 years in prison. 14 years less than my 40-year term for a nonviolent drug crime. When I hear Johnson's sentence come across my radio, I simply shake my head. Less than a month after Spite's murder, Shimoni Peterson met his end after a brutal beating by Daryl Milburn and Dwayne Gravely. Milburn, Gravely, and Daron Crawford were all living in a shoe cell designed for 2. On November 12, 2006, a corrections officer asked if they would accept a 4th cellmate. That 4th man was Shimoni Peterson. Gravely, a senior member of the Bloods, and Milburn decided to accept Peterson as a cellmate, but for only one reason: they wanted blood. Gravely believed Peterson had snitched on the Bloods, and snitching comes with severe consequences. Soon after Peterson entered the cell, Milburn put a t-shirt over his mouth and suffocated him while Gravely beat him. Peterson was found dead the next morning. The trio kept the dead body in the cell with them all night while they plotted how to explain his death. Violence is expected here by both staff and inmates. On November 4, 2007, Extreme violence erupted again when Eric Emard repeatedly stabbed his cellmate in the neck with a prison-made knife. After the assault, Emard told staff that he had intended to kill his cellmate. His cellmate required surgery and hospitalization. Emard's streak of violence did not end with the stabbing of his cellmate. That was just the beginning. While he was being prepared for transportation to a federal court to answer for the stabbing, he stabbed 2 correctional officers with a sharp weapon he fashioned from plexiglass. Prisoner Stephen Michael Reed, angry at his unit manager, decided to throw scalding hot water in his face. The unit manager ran out of the unit with 1st and 2nd degree burns to his face, neck, and chest. Reed's transgressions came with an additional 20-year sentence from a federal judge in Kentucky. October 21, 2008. Another federal prisoner from the New York area stabbed a prison guard over 10 times in the head, back, and arm with a prison-made weapon. In November 2008, Big Sandy prisoner Aaron Pike was stabbed by white gang members over 30 times. Pike was stabbed in the face, hands, and back. When the carnage had come to an end, both hands were broken, both lungs were punctured, and Pike was mercy-flighted, fighting for his life. Miraculously, doctors were able to save him. Death is a constant at Big Sandy. 2009 was rung in with the murder of Vincent Earl Smith Jr., a D.C. prisoner. John Travis Milner, who had been recently transferred to Big Sandy from USP Lee in Virginia for stabbing another prisoner, decided to stab his cellmate with a prison-made ice pick before strangling Smith Jr. to death. Milner was at Big Sandy serving a life sentence for killing 68-year-old church trustee Walter Coates in a random shooting. Seeking the death penalty for prison killings is a rarity, but in 2013, the Justice Department was weighing whether to seek his execution. J.M. Steps Eden was being transferred into humanity's hell, day after day, year after year. The violence, the death, the fear will never end until Big Sandy ceases to exist. With each assault, every murder, I know my life is on the line. I stare at the sun sparkling off the razor wire, wondering if my blood too will be left here. Only time will tell. Chapter 13. Smoking weed in bamboo, sipping on private stock. Way back, when I had the red and black lumberjack with the hat to match. Remember, rapping Duke? Do-ha, do-ha. You never thought that hip-hop would take it this far. Now I'm in the limelight, 'cause I rhyme tight. Time to get paid, blow up like the world trade. Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Peace to Ron G, Brucey B, Kid Capri, Funkmaster Flex, Love Bug, Star Ski. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call the crib, same number, same hood. It's all good. And if you don't know, now you know, nigga. You know very well who you are. Your father's a vicious crackhead, Booper ragged as we sat at his grandmother's table bagging up the first ounce of cocaine we ever bought. Juicy was playing on the floor model. Fuck you, your mother's a crackhead too, I replied. We both laugh in our ignorance. My heart flutters from the nervousness and excitement that comes with bagging up cocaine. I sit at the front table so I can see the front door in case someone tries to come in and take our hard-earned product. Within days, we went from a fake product to a real ounce of cocaine. Half for Booper, half for me. 2 glass plates sat in front of us. We took the razor blades to the shiny rocks. As I chopped the rocks into smaller dosages, I thought about all the money I wanted to make. The new starter jacket I would buy, and the matching pair of brand new Bo Jacksons. Money would help me escape my loneliness. It would help me buy the happiness I desired. The possibility that I could lose my life over $10 bags of cocaine was never even considered. Losing my drugs was impossible. I was starting my rise to the top. In my stupidity, I never even thought that prison was possible. I was too smart to get caught, or so I thought. Once our product was packaged, we headed out to a corner where there was a house that people were selling their own drugs from. Me and Booper had been out there stealing their customers for days. When one of the addicts would pull up, we would call them before they went to the door. Most of them would come to us, but some of the loyalists went to the door. It was not long before one of the loyalists told the guy on the other side of the door what we were doing. That's when Cooley came out of the door with a pistol in his hand. "You bitch-ass motherfuckers stealing my customers?" he yelled as he fired a shot in the air. We ran through the snow, hopping fences, racing back to the safe confines of Booper's grandmother's house and the floor model. Sitting in front of the floor model, we contemplated our next move. I knew I wanted that starter jacket and new Nikes, but now the plans had to change. If we were to continue in this business, I knew we both needed a gun. We need pistols, Booper. That's what we need. 2 burners, man. Yeah, we ain't letting his bitch ass run us off. Those are our customers now, Booper replied. The street hustling life was taking off, full throttle. For the meantime, we are going to sell cocaine to Booper's uncle's customers. Don't let him hold you down. Reach for the stars. You had a goal, but not that many, 'cause you the only one. I fell asleep on Booper's couch, smiling, dreaming about reaching the stars like Biggie said. Chapter 14. The morning is new, with the sun shining bright. I tuck my commissary items away and put my radio in my pocket. I contemplate going outside. Perhaps I should stay inside. Part of me wants to stay inside to keep watch over my locker. The other part of me wants to go to the yard to taste the fresh air. Fresh air is a small thing to most, but I look forward to it. The stale air contaminated with cigarette smoke and the dirty smell of sweat pushes me towards the hallway. I convince myself that my commissary will still be in my locker when I return, but I really have no idea if it will be. I am unsure if people are stealing here. Outside, I have to pass through a metal detector. The detector is not plugged in. The correctional officer assigned to man the machine and ensure no inmates take bone crushers or steal to the yard is oblivious to the fact that there is no power. He's more concerned with the conversation he is engaged in with a petite nurse. The conversation might be his way of avoiding a confrontation with any convicts transporting weapons to the yard. One man after another passes through the detector without a single beep. How many men have weapons on them is anyone's guess. The handball court seems to be calling me. When I was younger, I spent some of my summers playing the game on the back wall of my middle school. Two Mexican guys I came on the bus with are playing one-on-one. Both are Sureños, or Southsiders, as they are sometimes called. They are soldiers for the Mexican Mafia. Both the Sureños and the Mexican Mafia are highly respected by the staff and convicts alike. They are known behind these walls, as well as outside of them, as being a serious gang that has no qualms about using serious violence to meet whatever objectives their gang has. The Mexican Mafia was first formed in the 1950s with a group of 13 Mexican inmates at a prison in California. Those 13 men banded together to protect one another from other prisoners at the facility. In an attempt to squash the newly formed gang, prison authorities began sending the original members to other prisons. Rather than squashing the gang, what authorities did allowed the founders of the gang to recruit new members at other prisons, strengthening the gang. Once members were released from prison, the gang flourished in the free world, gaining even more strength and a stronger reputation. All Sureños aspire to become Mexican Mafia members someday, so they can get a black hand tattooed on their chest with an M in the middle. Such a tattoo is a badge of honor, and with it comes power and prestige in the criminal world. When it comes to Mexican gangs, the Mexican Mafia is at the top of the food chain. A 1992 movie titled American Me focused on the formation of the Mexican Mafia, or the La M, as it's also known. Another movie, Blood In, Blood Out, was loosely based on the gang architects, one of whom was Peg Leg Morgan, a white man who adopted the Mexican way of life. Not happy about the organization being put on display, the Mexican Mafia had two of the consultants on the American Me movie killed. Charles Charlie Brown Marquez and Anna Lizarraga were both shot to death. No one is off limits when the gang feels disrespected. No one. Sad Boy and Droopy invite me to play. Had I been black, they would have never made the invite. The Sureños have a strict code in here. They stay away from doing business or associating with blacks as much as they can. Almost everyone in the prison has a name other than their real name. Sad Boy does not look sad, yet this is what people call him. Droopy, on the other hand, has a droopy kind of look. There are many characters in here, from half dead to droopy. People from all over the country now confined in this desolate place. Playing handball takes me out of prison. It is another activity in here that puts me in a pleasant place from my past. For the moment, I am on the back wall of my middle school with two friends. Droopy becomes Freddy. Sad Boy is Andy. I trick myself. When I do this, I am able to leave prison. Leaving takes away the pain of my reality. Today is not today, at least not right now. Adam is standing off to the side of the court. I hadn't noticed him until now. When the ball goes out of play, he tells me he needs to talk to me after the game. For some reason, him wanting to talk to me angers me. Maybe it's because talking to him pulls me from middle school back into prison. After the game, I shake hands with the Sureños, thank them for inviting me to play, and walk toward Adam. Adam extends his hand to shake mine. "What's up, Chad?" "Nothing much. What's up with you?" "Oh, man, just out here strolling. Noticed you playing handball with the Mexicans. It's all right, bro, to play handball with the Mexicans, but you should try to find some white dudes to play with. Some guys in the car." He says this looking into the distance behind his sunglasses. "I am not really on that racist shit," I respond. "Nah, man, me either, bro. It's just a better policy. Sometimes sports can get heated, competitive at times, and can lead to problems. One problem with another race could cause us all problems." I nod in agreement, but my anger builds. He continues, "I ain't trying to do your time, bro. Just trying to help you. Just a better policy to do things with your own. You're new to prison, Chad, and there are a lot of things you're going to learn. Most of them you won't like, but some of these policies might save your life. Those Mexicans would kill you without a second thought, trust me. To a certain extent, Adam might be right. But being from New York, I had friends that were black, white, and Hispanic. New York is filled with people of different cultures, races, and languages. My best friend and co-defendant was of mixed race, Mexican and Irish. Now my way of thinking has to change. Prison, or Big Sandy, is a brand new beast, one I am unfamiliar with. This prison shit is crazy, I say. I don't make the prison rules or politics. I just follow them, Chad. It's better for all of us that way. It's all good, I agree. Adam and I shake hands, parting ways. Once back at the country cottage, as I have been referring to my cell given all of Mr. Young's knickknacks that adorn our housing area, I open my locker. My commissary items are still there. Mr. Young's angry look prompts me to initiate a conversation. "What's up, Mr. Young?" I ask. "You just ain't going to listen, are you, boy?" he snarks. "I seen you out there with them guys again." "What guys?" "Oh, don't play stupid with me, young man." "What the hell do you mean?" I ask. "You was out there hanging out with that long-hair fella. What the hell's his name?" "Adam. Yeah, and he ain't nothing but trouble. I was playing handball and he wanted to talk to me," I try to explain, but it's useless. "I'm going to tell you I told you so when something bad happens with you. And if you're in the hole and I don't get to see you, you just remember what old man Mr. Young told you." There's an overwhelming feeling that floods my inner self, telling me that the old man is probably going to be correct with his advice. Mr. Young's scolding makes me feel like a kid. He has been here a lot longer than me, and I'm sure he knows more than me. Mr. Young is wise in both years and prison experience. Feeling like I still have to explain myself, I respond, "Mr. Young, I'm just trying to be cool with everyone. I ain't trying to offend no one." "Well, for your sake, hopefully you won't be cooling off in the morgue with a toe tag on for messing with those scumbags," he says, raising his voice a little. "Hopefully not." "Yeah, what would your mother say if she got that phone call?" he asks. "Look, you're an old man, and I'm not going to argue with you or talk about this bullshit. Think about your mama before you make a bad choice," he hollers out to me as I walk out of the cell. I don't know if I am mad at Mr. Young or at myself for making foolish decisions. The toe tag comment, coupled with the phone call to my mother's statement, have my insides in an uproar. Standing against the wall, I pretend to watch television while I envision a morgue. There I am. I'm looking at myself on a cold slab of stainless steel with a toe tag and stab wounds. My mother crying with a phone to her ear. The thought of dying in this place is real. My mother getting the call hurts me more than the dying part. If it were not for my mother, maybe the dying part might be better than serving a 40-year sentence. Avoiding Mr. Young for the rest of the day is easy, but I cannot escape being locked in the cell at night with him. Once the doors lock, he begins. "Chad, I don't mean to be hard on you, and this is prison. I ain't supposed to be in no one's business, but you being young and new to prison, I'm trying to help you. Nah, I understand. There is no reason for me to argue with Mr. Young or to make excuses. I know he is right about everything he told me. I am telling you this prison is not like any other prison you ever seen, Chad." As I lay in my bed listening to Mr. Young, I find it hard to believe that my life has been reduced to living in a locked concrete bunker with another man 3 times my age and a toilet, wondering if my mother might get that call.